Hello, everybody. Chickly, everybody. Scott Taylor here, the Data Whisperer. Delighted to be here on my virtual world tour, telling the world about how to tell your data story, leveraging the 3 V's of data storytelling, as Yark said, for data management. So as you can see by the logos, I've got about 30 chapters I'm talking to with DAMA, which has been spectacular. Since I can't go anywhere, I can be everywhere. And I'm thrilled to be here with you today. Snapshot, there's Yark and I and Premislava, our 3 tenors picture from the last time I was in Warsaw, which was certainly fun for the CDO forum a few years ago. I got a glimpse, just a passing glimpse on the bus of the MDM Hotel, probably the greatest secret in all of data. We should always have our data conferences there. The MDM Hotel. I don't even want to know what it really stands for. I just want to think it stands for Master Data Management. If you see over in the lower bottom there, I found out that Data Whisperer, the Data Whisperer, which is my name, actually translates, once you translate it back from Polish, it translates into Data Enchanter. I kind of like that. And the hot lady over there in the oval, that's my grandmother, Frida, born in Warsaw. So I've got some true blood associated with the group here in terms of my Polish heritage as well. So I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you all very much. Before I go on, got to thank my sponsors, the folks at Wind Shuttle, trusted provider of MDM and PIM since 2003. So these folks know what they're doing. If you're looking for an MDM program that's outside of that hotel, please contact them or contact me as well. And also the DAMA Group, which is a great consultancy based in the United Kingdom that helps all kinds of enterprises establish really the cultural foundation you need to execute proper data management. So if you're interested in either of those folks, let me know. I'm happy to connect them with you, but they've kind of sponsored my tour here on telling your data story. Every enterprise has a data story to tell, and it's about the importance of why managing data is of strategic importance to an enterprise. You know that. I know that. Everybody on this call knows that. DAMA knows that, but it's the people who are not here that we have to convince. The enterprise stakeholders, your C-level managers, those business stakeholders who just don't seem to understand why it's so important. And what I will say over and over again is we have to reinforce the why. I've never met a CEO who wants to know about the how until they understand the why. So you're great practitioners, great data experts out there, great data leaders. I want to help you today with some of those soft skills to help you tell that enterprise data story. And I'll start right off with one of the most important statements I think I've ever made. Good decisions you make on bad data are just bad decisions you don't know about yet. That's the whole story, probably in a little nugget, but that's certainly the truth about data management that we want to remind people of. And I'm all about the truth. We've got to determine the truth in data. We've got to manage the truth. You can handle the truth. Obviously, I'm on the truth team, hence my truth hat. But we're all about focused on creating and managing and supporting and spreading the truth in the data we have for our enterprises so we can make those great decisions that we need to. So today we'll talk about my data story, a little bit about my history, why you should even listen to me, why you need a data story in your company to be able to reinforce that strategic value of proper data management, the relevance of data management today in the context of all the macro trends that are going on, the types of data storytelling. As was mentioned before, there's a couple of types of data storytelling, and we want to make sure we are clear on what they all are. And then talking about those 3 V's, vocabulary, voice, and vision, that pull a data story together. Obviously, a knowing wink to the 3 V's of big data, but want to help you kind of leverage these 3 V's. And then an example of putting this all in play. Let me just switch one thing here. Okay, there we go. And this is just simply going to give you a new way to talk about what you already know. I'm not going to help you with the how, technical implementation, how to do the things we all need to do in data management. I want to help you with the why, to use some business accessible terminology, some little nuggets, some phrases that will help you get your stakeholders involved and committed, because we all need more support. We all need more funding, for sure. You need the money you need to be able to do proper data management, and you're not going to get it unless you are able to tell a good business story. So as mentioned, I wrote a book all about this, which is the topic of today's conversation, Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management. It says right on the cover, it is 99% buzzword free. That's a guarantee I can guarantee. There's probably a buzzword or two hidden in there somewhere. And I don't want to say it's 100%. Nothing's 100%. I don't want to overpromise, but it's definitely 99% buzzword free. A great comment I got on Amazon, a must read for anybody who needs funding in data management. And I'm thrilled to say I am the #1 data book in Amazon in performing arts. See, they, through some kind of bizarre Amazon AI-based categorization process, they put my book in the performing arts category. I looked at all the rest of them. They're about singing, dancing, playing music. I'm the only data book in performing arts, which makes me the #1 data book in performing arts. See, you can make the data do anything you want to, can't you? A little bit about my background. I am much more the why than I am the how. I'm this data management advocate trying to raise the flag for the important work that we all do. I've worked at these iconic data brands, Nielsen, Dun & Bradstreet, WPP, Kantar, these huge organizations that help every kind of company across every kind of category work better with their data. And that's how I learned what I'm going to share with you today, being able to describe and articulate the value of proper data management to the business side so IT and data leaders can get the support they need. And I provide today what I call data evangelism as a service, a way to get people excited about this topic that we all know and love. I spent my career in kind of taxonomy, productization, helping people leverage these highly structured content assets that are usually used for master data, reference data, metadata, and so on. So very deep in that part of the space. But again, never on the technical side, always on the business side. I do a tremendous amount of content. If you haven't seen it already, required homework, you got to watch The Puppets of Data. Too much tech talk, this crazy journey that they go on. You can see me with a picture of my two friends, the CDO, the Chief Dog Officer, and his buddy, the ITB, that speaks only in buzzwords. I've got a cartoon called The Backstory of the Master Data Superhero, and even some bad data ideas that you want to avoid. So check those out on YouTube. There's a link to my YouTube channel. I've got about 50 videos out there. Proud to say, in case you haven't noticed, spoiler alert, I don't do a whole lot of whispering. We save that for the data, not for the people. We got to shout about the value of data management. I'm proud to say I was anointed data god of data whispering by Crackdose. I'm the #1 thought leader in big data according to Thinkers 360. I just hosted a 26.2-hour round-the-clock master data marathon. We're doing that again in September. And then I was just recently put on the who's who of data management. So I guess I know what I'm talking about. And I think I'm kind of hardwired for the taxonomy, master data, structured data part of the space, because my parents told me as a kid, instead of building with my Lego, I sorted it. So if you sorted your blocks as a kid, no wonder you're in a data business. We need to encourage that. We need data builders, but we also need data sorters. So that's why I think I'm that part of the space. What inspired me to write the book was I was listening to all this talk about data science, data literacy, data storytelling, and I asked myself, where is the voice of data management? I didn't hear it. Did you hear it? As usual, data science, data literacy, all those hot topics in the space get way too much attention, and they are almost always not about data management. If you don't have data management, none of the rest of this stuff works. So I really felt there was a need to kind of step up and bring a voice to the data management side of the space to at least get the same kind of attention that data literacy, data science, and data storytelling and its other incarnation all get. Now, you may have seen a couple of these iconic data leaders out there. If you know John Ladley and Tom Redmond, the data doc, they wrote in Dataversity, and they're instrumental and certainly leaders in the DAMA space as well. And they wrote this blog last year that said, as a community, we have failed to educate leaders and craft messages that people will listen to. And their headline was, Data Management Has Failed. Now, I took a look at this, and I certainly respect their opinion, But I looked at it and I wrote a response the next month saying data management hasn't failed, but data management storytelling has. Data management messaging is very hard to listen to. And an overwhelming majority of data management programs fail because they have the inability to demonstrate and then communicate business alignment. How do we tell the story? You have to do those two things. You have to demonstrate it, and then you have to communicate it. You have to do it, and then you have to tell people about it. That's what evangelism's all about. You got to get people to believe, and then you got to get them to practice. So I agree certainly with those leaders that we have to start crafting messages that people will listen to. And just a fun fact here, our blogs ranked number 9 and 10 last year. So people were reading theirs and reading mine right after that. So hopefully this message is getting through. Another source, McKinsey posted this white paper last year as well about 6 ways to drive data governance excellence. Data governance, data management, they're all part of the same topic area. And I looked at those 6 and I highlighted 3 of them: secure top management attention, integrate with primary transformational themes, and generate excitement about data. And said, okay, all of those support the fact that we need to tell a better data story about why our data is so important. Now, if you look at all the macro trends going on, and people always wonder, okay, so how does data management fit into all of this? These are the transformational themes that our leaders are focused on. Whether it's digital transformation in general, artificial intelligence, moving into e-commerce, which a lot of organizations had to do last year suddenly, knowing your customer, or data privacy regulations, which are in the financial services space and actually all categories at this point in terms of data privacy, the Internet of Things, creating an as-a-service offering, the 4th industrial revolution, transforming your customer experience, all these huge macro trends out there. And I look at all of them and say, hey, you can't do any of them without data management. You can't do any of these without that properly stewarded, expertly governed foundational data that determines so many things in our organization. Behind the scenes, kind of deep in the enterprise, but they don't call it a foundation for nothing. So I look at these macro trends and say, you know what? Data management is macro trend agnostic. No matter what these bubbles were 5 years ago, no matter what we're doing today, no matter where we're going in 5 or 10 years, you are always going to need data management to get there. If it's about technology, technology needs hardware, software, data. If you've got data, you need data management. As far as I'm concerned, no 2 ways about it. So the truth about data management, that the value of every digitally transformative customer initiative, every as-a-service offering, every foray into e-commerce, every enterprise software implementation is inextricably linked to the successful output of your data management efforts. You cannot get there without it. Now, those big transformational themes, that's what our leaders are thinking about, but they don't always connect those data dots between the need for data management and the ability to achieve those dreams that they are thinking about at a strategic level. Simple way to think about it, we all talk about this idea, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, rubbish in, rubbish out. It's kind of an old-fashioned cliche. I don't think it drives any kind of action anymore. People don't just suddenly do things because you say GIGO. So I'm trying to elevate this concept as well. Is there a new way to talk about this? And so I'd suggest we elevate this to the golden rule of data. Do unto your data as you would have it do unto you. What you put into data management is what comes out of business intelligence. No 2 ways about it. So you put bad data into an ERP, you get a bad ERP. You put bad data into CRM, you get missed customer opportunities. You put bad data into FinTech, you'll probably get a visit from the regulators. Bad data into ML, bad robots. Bad data into BI, BS. Bad data into AI, AS, artificial stupidity. No matter how you slice it or how you dice it, the golden rule of data prevails. Do unto your data as you would have it do unto you. So it's truth before meaning. You've got to determine the truth first before you derive meaning. You've got to do data governance, master data, reference data, MDM, RDM, PIM, all those foundational activities before you go too far into AI and ML and analytics and business intelligence. Truth first, then meaning it's not chicken or egg here. It is egg and omelet. If you don't have the truth, you're not going to get a whole lot of meaning. So that leads me to this idea of data storytelling and how it all fits in. So data storytelling is probably the hottest non-technical thing going on in the data space today. Lots of activity about it, but almost all of it's focused on analytics, on business intelligence. There's 9 books out there, and there's plenty more to come and available about how to put data into a business context. Super important. But again, we need a book about the data management side of data storytelling. So we're trying to open up the category and say there's 2 types of data storytelling, one for business intelligence and one for data management. And that business intelligence, analytics data story, again, about deriving meaning through data literacy, data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, visualization, and so on. But on the data management side, how do we determine that truth? Data governance, data quality, MDM, RDM, PIM, DAM, those foundational activities. So the 2 kinds of data storytelling, the more popular one and the one that's more recognized on analytics, telling stories with data, using it, versus data storytelling for data management about the data and making it. You don't have to make a choice here. We need both. But the idea I want to reinforce today is that there's 2 kinds. You've got to tell the stories about using the data, putting it in a business context to drive action. But you also need to tell stories about making your data and why it's so important to govern it across the organization. Now, I'm hoping this is clear. And the only reason I'm hesitating is because I actually got a 1-star review in Amazon from somebody who said, it will not teach you data storytelling. It has nothing to do with data storytelling. It's about data governance and management. Right on the cover, it says data storytelling for data management. So I'm glad this person bought the book, but did they even read the cover? So you can see some other better reviews I got from folks who actually knew what I was talking about. So in case there's any question here, we're talking about data storytelling for data management. So when you start that data management story, what kind of story is it? Are you Hans Christian Andersen? Or are you Don Draper from Mad Men? Do you tell a fable? No, you got to tell a pitch. You've got to sell this. Now, don't get too frightened if we're talking about selling and you don't have that kind of experience. But if you don't pitch this, if you don't convince somebody of the benefits of what you have to offer, if you don't show them how what you can provide is going to solve their problem, they're not going to support you. You've got to pitch this. So if you've got any sales training, you already have a leg up. But the type of story you tell, it's not your life story. It's not some epic fable. It's a story that sells the idea of the importance of data management. A lot of people start with the analysts, and I couldn't help sharing this particular piece of research from the Gartner Association. They published this poll where they asked people, organizations, if they measured the value of master data. 90% said, no, we do not measure it. 10% said other. I hope yes is in other. What kind of poll is this? Or do you start it with your kind of classic terminology that we use? Do you go up to your CEO and say, we need a golden record? They're going to say, that sounds expensive. Again, you got to watch the words you use. Do the business understand this? Do you want to spend too much time explaining terminology that then gets to the point? Or do you want to use the kinds of words that they understand right away? In a pitch, your first couple minutes is the most important. Or do you just simply show them this? Here you go. It's perfect. There's your reference data architecture. There's the data model. It's fantastic. It works. Look how great it is. You'll get thrown out of the office if you put this in front of your senior leadership. This isn't what they care about. This is super important. It's the how. But again, if they don't understand the why, they don't care about the how. So save your data models for a different day. This has got to reinforce why it's important to support the work you do. So every enterprise has a data story to tell, and it starts with the essence of your business. It starts with why you are in business and how you bring value to the folks you deal with. So every enterprise provides value to their relationships through their brands at scale. Again, provide value to your relationships through your brands at scale. That's the point. That is, at its essence, digital transformation. Now, when we think about this terminology, this is a very generic statement. You want to start to fill in the blanks in your own mind and how to apply this to your organization's business. But if you look across every enterprise that I have ever visited, they are all trying to provide value to their relationships through their brands at scale. When we talk about scale, that takes technology. That's where you come in. They can't do it at scale without technology. Technology, hardware, software, data. Again, data. If you got data, you need data management. Value comes in three ways. How do you help grow the business? How do you help improve the business? How do you help protect the business? Increase sales, operational efficiency, mitigate risk, all really important activities, none of which can happen at scale without well-governed data. Now, when we say relationships, what do you mean by that? Fill in the blanks for your own organization, your own relationships. Is it customer, vendor, partner, prospect, citizen, patient, client? What do you call the relationships you have? That's important terminology to use, and that's terminology that your business leaders will understand. And when we look at product or brand, what do we mean by that? Every organization has a brand. It could be a product, a service, an offering, a location, a banner. It could be a finished good that's made up of materials and ingredients, all the piece parts that go into that brand. But we all have brands and we all have relationships. If you don't have relationships, you don't have a business. If you don't have brands, you've got no way to provide value to those relationships. Now, you've probably already noted that those blue and green words are classic master data domains, aren't they? So I think you can go very quickly from wanting to provide value to relationships through your brands at scale to the data you need to back it up. So you got to ask yourself and look, how's your data about your relationships? How's your data about your brands? Probably some trouble in there. They can't get there without that data being well governed. So there's part of your connection. Now, we talk about digital transformation can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. It means for every organization is you've got more data now than you've ever had before. You've got to manage it in ways you never thought of before. So your organization can do things it never dreamed of before. That's what digital transformation is from my perspective. It's a combination of people, tech, process, and data. I'm going to focus on the data side. I'm picking up some noise in the background there. I don't know who it might be. You guys still hear me okay? We're good? Okay. Now, digital transformation and data management, I find as the foundation of digital transformation. I've got the benefit of talking to so many different kinds of companies over so many years across so many categories, literally all over the earth, that I try and kind of distill the common themes, the trends, the motifs, the similarities I see across organizations. Certainly your categories are different, whether you're in banking or manufacturing or a media company or a startup, but the essence of what you do and the essence of digital transformation, I've found is more the same than it is different. So every organization starts in this legacy state with multiple silos. You've got sales, marketing, finance, operations, different systems support those different siloed activities and different departments. And that means the data about those things is separate, is unintegrated, is disparate, is not connected, is not standardized. Now, a legacy state doesn't necessarily mean old. You could have bought a brand new marketing customer data platform yesterday and stood it up in your marketing department, and you may have created a brand new version of customer. So it's more an approach and a business activity and philosophy in terms of whether you're siloed or not. We've got to start to pull these things together, which brings people to the second phase of being in an integrated enterprise and being relationship-centric. How do you put the most important parts of your business at the center of what you do, both strategically and systematically? Those important parts, relationships and brands, customer 360, product 360, common view, standard view, golden record, all those things really feed into this idea of centricity, of circle. centricity, 360. That geometry works for me. You got to put the entity in the middle there. But this idea that across your enterprise, everybody can get access to the trusted content they need at the right time, the right place, in the right context. Now that's great internally. You've gone from a legacy state to an integrated enterprise, but none of us work alone. So you've got to reach out and be part of a trust network through these connected ecosystems. How do you integrate? How do you communicate? How do you interoperate with the other parties across your value chain? Whether it's partners or prospects or customers or vendors, ways to connect to them on a seamless code-to-code, system-to-system basis, that's where scale really starts to happen. And the two universal requirements that I've recognized to go from a legacy state to an integrated enterprise to connected ecosystems, to move from silos to centric to network, are authenticated identity and a common data structure. Do you know what this thing is? Have you identified it? Have you authenticated it? Have you validated it? Have you unduplicated it? Do you trust it? Can you connect it? Do you have it already? Did you search before you created? All these common things that people do to authenticate the identity of a thing. Yes, this thing exists, it's important, and it's unique. And then having a data structure to be able to move that idea across systems and across parties. Obviously, I'm not going to get into it technically here. However you do it is the way you do it. But why you want to do it is to have that authenticated identity and a common data structure. And when you have that, that provides the scale. That allows you to do things instead of 10 times, 100 times, or instead of 1,000 times, 1,000,000,000 times, because you can, that you've got that foundational master data, reference data, metadata that enables those kinds of activities. Now, some examples, they're everywhere, of trust networks and connected ecosystems that are powered off of authenticated identity and a common data structure. If you take a look on the left side of that slide there, if you Amazon, Uber, Airbnb, Netflix, these classic disruptors that we all work with and deal with that have brought uncalculable value to our daily lives. They all work off of authenticated identity and common data structure. Amazon has an ASIN, they call it, a unique code for every single product. They know the category, they know the geography. Netflix is able to serve up new content to you because it's highly structured underneath, and they know it's you, they know your viewing habits, and they know things that are like the content and movies you've seen. So all of these work only because they've got that authenticated identity and a common data structure. Really good example too that I show people when people say, you know, what do you even do, Scott? I said, let's take a look at master data in action. Go to any supermarket and take a look at the barcode on every product, every box, bottle, can, jar, tube, bag on every shelf in every store has that universal ID, that UPC, that GTIN that identifies that product. So when you walk up to the cash register and that product goes beep, that little beep, that's data in action. That is authenticating the identity off of a common data structure. And even for things that may seem very almost legacy or manual, like color, if you're not familiar with it, there's a thing called the PMS, the Pantone Matching System. It's been around for decades. It authentically identifies every color so designers can make sure that the proper execution is done no matter what the tactic. And they've got little numbers on there too. So all those common IDs that we all try and nurture and keep unique, they just power so many things. And imagine what happens when they're not there. Stuff simply doesn't work. So let's talk about these 3 V's of data storytelling now. Vocabulary. You want to establish an accessible vocabulary. The voice you use, harmonized to a common voice. And the vision, illuminating your business vision. So this vocabulary part, you start right there. The words you use are important. The way you describe things is absolutely critical. Do you use a bunch of buzzwords? Do you use a bunch of legacy lexicon words that people have often used when describing data management? I'll pick on a few of them first. Quality, cleansing. Now quality, right there. I know data quality is important. You know it's important. But quality is a very emotional, subjective word. Everybody has their own version of quality, and there's not a CEO out there who's clamoring, we need better data quality. No, they don't, because they think it's taken care of. Quality doesn't sell. Hate to break it to you, but I haven't seen it. If it did, we wouldn't be in the trouble we're in. You wouldn't have so much trouble convincing people. So if you're going up there and saying, we need a data quality program, ask yourself, why? Why? Data quality is not the goal. It's an enabler. It allows you to do other things. Focus on those other things and show how data quality can get there. But if you say your goal is to improve data quality, you're not going to get the kind of support you need. And words that are very tactical and project-oriented and ad hoc, like cleansing and freshness and hygiene. You want to clear a room? Bring a bunch of stakeholders in and say, we're going to start a data hygiene program. They'll go running. These words are not very exciting, and they don't capture the imagination and the hearts and minds of your audience. They sound clerical, they sound back office, they sound like a chore. Use more definitive words like structure. We've got to create a common structure for our customer information. Standards. We've got to establish a common standard across our organization, just like industries do, to be able to enable this interoperability. Think about the enterprise terminology you use for your relationships, for your offerings, for your hierarchies, for your segmentation, for your market geographies. I've got a set of videos out there called the 4 C's of data: code, company, category, country, and it's all about entity definitions and identifiers, hierarchical structures, taxonomies for sorting stuff out, and geographies and markets. So much of what you do and so much of what your organization does is centered around those concepts. Stick to the, focus on those 4. Make sure you've got the common terminology to reinforce what those 4 are for your world. And then use your industry nomenclature. Every industry has a set of terms that the industry itself understands. They're different by vertical. Again, a lot of people call the folks they deal with customers, but if you're in the advertising space or you're a legal or you're a law firm, you never call them customers, you call them clients. Again, if you're in the healthcare space, they're patients and doctors. They're all relationships, but you want to use the right terminology for your organization. And here's a tip: start with your business glossary. If you've done that hard work to get all those stakeholders together to support a common definition of customer, use that glossary. You're able to operationalize those terms. So again, the vocabulary, the terms, the words you use are really important. And avoid trying to come up with a brand new word for existing problems. The challenge you're going to have is you got to describe what that word is, get people to realize what it means, and then move to the solution that you're trying to provide. It takes too much time. I've done it. I've watched it fail. Try and use the words that people already know. It's a shortcut to understanding. Then you want to harmonize to a common voice. Now, harmony doesn't mean everybody sings the same notes, but it does mean they all sound good together. So how do you talk about it? You want to share and propagate an elevator pitch, a narrative, a short version of why data management is so important to your organization. You want to avoid all these in-depth technical explanations, these cliched false starts about, again, data quality. Data quality is important, but it doesn't sell. That's my opinion. Or, data's the new oil, or we got more data now than ever before. These things are just cliches. I think people don't even really respond to them anymore. So you want to have a consistent tone and tenor. How do you talk about it? How does your team talk about it? Do you all use the same words, that vocabulary? Do you all talk about it the same way? You may want to create an internal communication program. You got to market your own data story internally. And I've worked with organizations, and anybody out there who needs some help, I'm happy to chat with you about how I can help you. How do you put that internal marketing program together? How do you get the stakeholders to realize data management is not some project? It is a program that we are on and support, and it touches every part of our organization. There's stories in sales, in marketing, in finance, in operations. There's a data hero of the month you could probably find. You've got to be able to capture all those anecdotes and put them under this umbrella narrative so everybody realizes it's part of the same thing. And actually reflect your own brand positioning in your own category. So if you're in the healthcare space, data is the lifeblood to our organization. A healthy business works off of healthy data. Again, use words and positioning that your company already understands, and you'll be able to get to the point quicker. And reinforce and focus those stories on those three business areas. How do we grow? How do we improve? How do we protect? And the beauty of the data you manage, it can actually help do all three of those things at the same time. Now, here's a little voice tip here. If you're not great at the storytelling part, get some help. Buy the book, listen to me, but even go to your own organization. Look for help in every big organization I've ever worked in. There are people who want to help. Go to sales and marketing. They tell stories for a living. If your salespeople can't tell stories, they're not making quota. These people know how to pitch. They know how to put a narrative together. Go to your internal communications department. Sometimes in human resources or in the people team, they've got folks there to help you on those soft skills. Get that training. It's invaluable. So look to the other storytellers in your organization to help tell your story. And then finally, you want to illuminate the business vision. How does what you do and why is what you're doing in data management enable the strategic intentions of your enterprise? Why does it help you get to where you want to go? What are the major business initiatives you've got going on that have as an element relationships and brands? I'd suggest there's hardly any that don't. Everything you're doing is about your relationships and your brands in one way or another, and the data you've got about that's got to be managed well. It's about your business. We're all part of the business. I know there's this kind of terminology out there about sort of the business versus data. You're all part of the business. You can all help in some way or another. And so a little vision tip, if you're having a challenge, what is my company trying to do? How do you find out about that? Listen to what your leaders say. Read your annual report if you're a public company. Read your strategy statement. Look at those slides from the last company meeting, all hands meeting you had about here's where we're trying to go. If you're a public company, look for your Investor Day presentation. It's right on your website. That's what I used to do before I'd go into a company. Listen to what the leaders say, see what they're talking about. They're not talking about data quality, but they are talking about relationships and brands. And then you can quickly hook your need for data management to those activities. But be fluent in that. This is why you're doing it, to help your company enable the strategic intentions of the enterprise. Now, in the last couple minutes here, let's put it all in play. Let me show you an actual example that I put together and we put together and put in front of a company, but really simple example. It's a little bit condensed here to show you how you might apply these 3 V's of data storytelling to your own situation. So here are some examples of the strategic intentions of an enterprise. Here's a slide that I put together from a number of slides in an Investor Day presentation for a public company, a Fortune 200 company, a large global organization, where we tried to pick apart and understand their vocabulary, their voice, and their vision. So let's start with vision. What's the vision of this company? It's right there. They called it our vision. We aspire to be the premier partner of choice for our customers and suppliers. Those are relationships. How hard was that to find? Their vision is to improve and be a better partner to their relationships. It's right there and core to the being of this company. Now, their voice, it was all in their strategic framework. Customer engagement, brand management, enterprise effectiveness, all these things grow, improve, and protect. It's right in there. Differentiate the customer experience, localize productivity and efficiency while keeping a global view. You know how hard it is to synchronize both of those. You can't do that without data. And then when you look for the vocabulary of this organization, it's buried within these statistics. Doing business in 90 countries. Can you imagine the number of enterprise systems they have that don't connect? The number of instances of the same branded software that has different views of different things. You know it's a mess. 90 countries, the bigger they are, the harder it is to integrate. They've got 800 suppliers, 100,000 customers. There's all kinds of vocabulary behind all that. But the data reality hit them in the face. So we took a look at the actual data they had on those customers, and here's just one example. Panasonic Mobile Communications ran it against a standardized database and found out that they had 185 duplicates of the same record, of the same entity. How can you possibly be the premier partner of choice for Panasonic Communications if you have so many duplicates? If the data you have about them is garbage. There's nothing strategic about that. That's not 185 ship-tos. That's 185 duplicates I don't think they ever searched before they created. This is the kind of mess and data reality you have to show people. So there's a quick connection here between the aspiring to be the premier partner of choice and then the data that this company had that doesn't back up that promise. There's a lot more to this story, but hopefully this headline here and this summary view shows you it can be done. Every enterprise has a data story to tell about why data management is of strategic importance. So you want to leverage those 3 V's of data storytelling again: vocabulary, the words you use; voice, the way you talk; and vision, why it's important. And there's a great quote that's not from me that I heard the other day. The best arguments in the world won't change a person's mind. The only thing that can do it is a good story. I heard somebody say that on TV the other day. I ran right away. I got to find that quote. I put it right in the presentation, but there's the essence there. You can show them all you want, but you got to get them involved into this soft skill process of capturing people's hearts and minds to help them understand it. So if you want to live happily ever after, every enterprise has a data story to tell. It's about how you bring value to your relationships through your brands at scale. There's 2 types of data storytelling. Remember that: about data, data management, determining the truth and making that data, and then data storytelling with data, business intelligence, deriving meaning. Data management is macro trend agnostic and the foundation of digital transformation. No matter where we are, no matter where we're going, no matter what's happening, you're still going to need it. Leverage those 3 V's of data storytelling: vocabulary, voice, and vision. And an effective narrative captures the hearts and minds of your business and can actually help motivate and unify your own team. They're all able to tell that story successfully. And one last note, the last page in my book, the last lines of my book remind people: hardware comes and goes, software comes and goes, but data remains. It's always going to be viable and important to every organization if they want to succeed. I'll take a breath here. I've got a couple more slides to finish up with, but I'll just take a moment, see if there's any questions about telling your data story with anyone. We'll open it up.
Just got Sebastian here. Quick question, because it's very interesting when I listen to you, but then when I meet people in commercial roles, as we call them, business partners, the word data is already not in their vocabulary, right? So the data already puts you in the bucket together with like IT help desk. And that's really just a cost and not a value. So any comment on that or any advice?
Yeah, so I mean, we've all struggled with trying to sort of separate the notion of data value from IT, and I think we've all suffered from that for decades. You know, it's hard for me to imagine an organization that doesn't at least get a little bit attracted at what data can do for them. I think you've got to look at which part of the organization you're talking to and obviously speak to the sales people around the sales value, the financial folks who tend to be in my experience, the easiest to explain to, because they're dealing with numbers and finance and know about hierarchies and quarterly reports and all that kind of stuff. But how it can help there, how it can help in operations, got to pull all these little anecdotes together, but challenge yourself to make sure you can tell a business-oriented story. Look at what their challenges are, look at what their successes are, and show that, data can help them do those better, or flip it around and find out what their problems are. What are their challenges? Oh, we're trying to shorten our, quote to cash process, or we're really struggling with customer churn, and this may be ironic to all of us here, we hired all these data scientists and they're not bringing us any value because they're spending all their time munging and wrangling data, instead of talking to data management and getting better data to start with. So there's no easy answers, no silver bullet, unfortunately. But what you're suffering from is common. Hopefully there's some comfort in that. It's not just you and your organization, but we've got to get people in there. And part of it is kind of softening the approach, talking about the business activity rather than running in and saying, look at all this data we have and let's do all this stuff with data. It's like, okay, all right already. I think they get a little shock from that. So hopefully some of that's helpful.
Dorota?
Yes. Scott, is there any chance that I find communications vocabulary in your book? I have about 3 weeks to prepare a data story for the board, so I was wondering whether you can help me with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of vocabulary in the book, or examples of vocabulary for sure. I go pretty deep into that. I think it's like 3 or 4 pages of questions you want to try and answer. You don't have to answer all of them, but just to give people some direction on where to find these. So there's plenty of stuff in the book on that, and it is available in a e-version too, so you don't have to wait for him to ship it to you. But I do talk a lot about vocabulary, especially in this idea of 4 C's: code, company, category, country, which are about, as I mentioned, identifiers, hierarchies, taxonomies, geographies. So many things an organization does is somehow related to one or more of those. And just kind of using that kind of, again, business language. What do you call things already versus what, the data side might refer to them as. But everything I just went through is in the book in further depth, obviously. So there's nothing in there other than that great quote about you got to tell a story to change somebody's mind. Wish I had that when I was writing it. I would have put it right up front.
Yes. In my organization, the data is like a side effect of projects. Nobody put enough importance to data, so I need to just tell a data story.
And I caution, again, we've got a lot of great leaders out there. If you run in and say, okay, we're going to monetize our data, if you're in the data space, you probably know, okay, monetization means getting value. It means a lot of things. But a business person hears the word monetize and they think money right away, cash. Oh, you're going to sell it? We're going to make money off of it? We're going to product. And then they start to, before you can even get the idea out, bring up a whole bunch of objections. So even that comment, which is very popular in the data space, may not necessarily be understandable to the business side right away. So you really want to watch kind of the words we all know and make sure you're using the words of that data, of that business group first. That helps.
That last comment which Dorota brought in about data not being part of the project, I think that is quite an interesting observation. If she is because she's saying this and I'm seeing this, I have seen it myself in many of the situations, and we've been sharing sort of many different kind of experiences, Scott. But it's quite often, I think, going back to that kind of 4 circles which you had on one of your slides, which was people, process, technology, and data. And that is the kind of, that should be a common theme of how things are being managed, how things are being seen, that you can't do technology if you don't understand the processes that you're putting in, the people who are going to use it, and the data which you're going to process through that technology. And whenever you lose one of those kind of elements, the whole puzzle is basically falling apart. So in terms of that kind of question, Dorota, which you just said, that data is a kind of a byproduct of the project, which I can very much relate to, because I'm suffering to some extent the same kind of fate as you are. I think the importance is to make sure that at certain point you are able to use that, many of those examples of saying that because the data was not part of the project, so it was not part of integral ecosystem of the project. It hasn't been properly structured, it hasn't been properly defined, it hasn't been properly knitted into the processes and the understanding and training and everything. That's why the fate of the project after it has been delivered is what it is, and which means the organization is going to spend more money and more time and effort, which is becoming more scarce and scarce, to rectify the situation. And that in itself, that creates that kind of value that Scott was talking about, right?
Yeah, I totally agree.
And I think there is quite a lot of us. So, I mean, the whole idea of us being in part of the DAMA is that we can build that kind of network of different people and we can help each other. So you can not only call out on the people like Scott who can tell you how to kind of sell it, because he's very good at it. That was his life. That's how I met him on one of the conference, and we had a bit of a go ahead at each other for different reasons. It was all fun and not ill intended, but no. You can use us, you can use Tomasz, myself, Andrzej, anybody who is on that call, Dorota. That's the whole purpose of DAMA Poland chapter, to be able to support each other, to bring that kind of experience, to bring this kind of external view of someone who is outside of the organization into a particular conversation, and basically sometimes ask those very simple, very straightforward questions to your leaders, to your project managers, to the people who do the project in your business, and ask them the questions which will kind of maybe, hopefully, light up the bulb of idea in their heads that maybe something is not being done properly. Maybe they need to think about the same thing in a bit different way.
Yeah, thank you. Beware, but I certainly will use your help.
Well, that's why we're here. So, anybody else? Any other questions? Let me just check if there is anything there.
I got something from Piotr. Did I sign the data-centric manifesto? I think I did. I signed a manifesto. It's a while ago. See if it's the same one, if you want to send me the link. But I remember there was one out there and I signed it. So yes.
Good.
All right.
Any comments, any challenges for Scott or anyone who does not agree with what has been said and shown?
Hello. May I have a question to Scott?
Yes, of course.
Okay, my name is Leszek. Scott, could you please tell me, according to your experience, do you think there is a word to go through the way of telling story about data with a different way? So just to scare the people from business with the information that what if it will be when we don't do something? So is it worth to go this way?
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yargs agrees. Yeah. Sometimes you got to frighten them. Sometimes you have to embarrass them. Sometimes you have to shock them. And a really good way is, I showed that example of 185 duplicates. I have another example in the book of the 270 different ways one organization spelled a customer name. These are rampant. Every organization has these problems. And sometimes you have to show people, look, we can't get there. I'm your data person. We're trying to give you fuel to run a lot of these applications and drive a lot of this value. And this is the kind of data governance problem we have. This is the kind of data stewardship problem that you won't help us support. We got 185 different, garbage in, garbage out. Yeah, but you've got to help us stop the bleeding at least. We've got to set a standard. So those kinds of things for sure. It's not all a carrot. If you can show a little bit of stick, I think you'll get some results as well.
Okay, thank you. Got the point.
Let's see. Oh, here you are. All right, there's my link to the data manifesto. Thank you. I'll check it out. All right, so just kind of wrapping up here. Again, if I can help, some of you already asked for it, love to help you tell your data story. If you're trying to get the book, you can go to technicspubs.com. If you use my code Data Whisperer, you'll save 20%. And I do this. This is what I do for a living, actually. Webinars, internal meetings, sales meetings, all kinds of team sessions, data story consulting. This is all I do now. I'm really fortunate and thrilled in my career at this point to do just the stuff I had the most fun at my whole career. And as I mentioned, I've got 50 videos on YouTube. Just look for the Data Whisperer YouTube channel. If any of those videos help you explain what you're trying to explain or validate it or support an idea you already have, take them, use them. You can't steal them. I'm giving them to you. It's why I do what I do. And at minimum, please follow me on at least LinkedIn. If you put your phone up to that QR code, it'll bring you right to my profile talking about being a data guy. And if you feel like it, put a recommendation in there as well. Here's a perfect one from Bruce. Scott is the best and most entertaining public speaker I've ever encountered, period. Bruce is a great guy. So anyway, just any of those things, whether it's the book or at least follow me or watch the YouTube stuff, it's all content to help you tell that better data story. So thank you, everybody. I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate the support from Wind Shuttle and Comma Group. And Jarek and Tomasz, thanks for having me here. And sorry I couldn't be there in person, but someday I'll be back in Warsaw for sure.
Oh, definitely. There is one last question from Piotr. Are there plans for next Master of the Universe, DM Radio?
Oh, I guess so. If you've heard that, I just show up on that show whenever they talk about master data. So for those of you who don't know, DM Radio is Data Management Radio. It's the only radio station that's focused just on data management. You should check it out. Eric Kavanaugh is the host. And whenever they talk about master data, they usually pull me in, as well as a couple other master data folks out there. But I certainly hope I don't know anything planned, but they usually have a show about master data and data management on a regular basis. So hopefully there. Yep.
Cool. Thanks, Scott. Thanks.